we will move on to the next section, but before we do, I did want to actually comment on a Times Union article that was published in yesterday's paper. I'm not sure if members of the commission or the audience have read it, but there was an article in yesterday's paper under the topic heading Charter Change that predominantly dealt with the appellate division's recent decision relating to a FOIL request that sought ballot images. But the article did contain, in what was a relatively lengthy article, a few paragraphs about this Charter Commission. And the portions related to the Charter Commission indicate, and I'll just read them off, it's not lengthy. Meanwhile, there is a newly formed Charter Review Commission created by new City Mayor Meg Kelly. The commission, which meets every other week on Wednesdays, expects to tweak the current charter. It also proposes to preserve the commission form of government, which has been a point of contention in the city for more than a decade. The new commission consists of elected officials and their appointed deputies. It is chaired by City Attorney Vincent De Laurentiis. Not certain who that is. Most of the officials on the commission vehemently opposed any charter change and publicly campaigned against it, defying state law that requires elected officials remain neutral in a charter referendum. During this new charter review, elected officials on the commission will have the opportunity to raise their own salaries and extend their terms in office. The changes may or may not have to be voted on in a referendum. Unfortunately, even though it's a small portion of what was in the larger article, the information contained in that portion is largely inaccurate. And it should be pointed out that with respect to the claims in there regarding the commissioners and their opportunity to affect the terms of office and raise their salaries on something that may or may not be put on a referendum, I want to be clear and to remove any confusion that the certificate filed by the mayor, the certificate that created this commission, made very clear that the commission will be tasked with producing a charter proposal to be submitted to the voters of Saratoga Springs for a referendum in the November 2018 election. So while we as a commission have not made any final determinations as to what will or will not be proposed with regard to salaries or terms of office, what is clear is that any proposals that will be made will be decided by the registered voters of the city of Saratoga Springs and not by its elected officials. The other part of that article that was somewhat disturbing and quite frankly irresponsible was the claim that members of the commission and in particular the city council did anything that was in contradiction of the law. Providing the public with information, educating the public, and having the public participate in this process is something that we want and something that we encourage. Information that is contained in articles that is inaccurate and or misleading tends to frustrate that purpose. So I would respectfully ask the author of the article in the Times Union newspaper, Ms. Liberatore, to take some care and caution in educating herself on the issues that she intends to write about in her paper so as not to ultimately render what would be the ultimate disservice in misinforming the public. So I just wanted to provide that clarification and set that out there.